Why do you think America has such a fixation on religion? Well, I believe America has such a fixation on religion because historically it was declared the land of God for God's children as well. And Malcolm X said, "Nothing is defined without history." To me, it seems very hypocritically similar to the Israelis in Palestine today. Whites believe they are made in God's image because they believe Jesus is God, and they still believe Jesus or Isa was white despite all the evidence against it. It was Michelangelo who painted most likely the largest piece of propaganda ever created, and it was an enslavement of the world's minds by painting a white man reaching out to a white God reaching back. This work was created less than 20 years after Columbus's so-called discovery of America. Do you distinguish between religion and spiritualism? Of course, I have to distinguish between spirituality and religion, yet I believe both can be practiced. One of the first books I ever read was Alex Haley's Roots, and I truly felt for Kunta Kinte being a Muslim in this West land fogged in sin, immorality normalized and even celebrated. Kunta Kinte did such things as putting a rooster feather for spirit, a chicken bone for luck, and horsehair for strength all in a bag, and calling it a Sappho charm. He saved the sand from one's footprint to ensure their return to that spot. Yet he always prayed, practiced Islam, never drank alcohol, never ate pig, and he never gave up on Allah, which in turn is why I believe he was able to complete his story with Alex Haley. And so also Alex Haley could complete Malcolm's story by writing his book. I believe it's the universal balance and the will of Allah. What was the biggest factor in choosing your religion or forming your opinion about religion? The largest factor in me choosing my religion was, of course, Malcolm X. Everything he said was an undeniable truth. But I first discovered Malcolm X through Tupac Shakur. I was a troubled youth similar to Malcolm. I was a Christian, a criminal, an addict, and worse. Very similar crimes to Malcolm's crimes. But Islam was a true awakening and rebirth for myself, not only spiritually, but also physically as well. What are the pros and cons associated with religion? In my view, the pros associated with religion are its influences of reformation, discipline, respect, and strong character. The cons with religion, of course, are the lies, the greed, the deception, such as the Church for Money or the Catholic Church's role in slavery. It was donated by the Queen of England, the Good Ship of Jesus, which was the first transatlantic slave transporting ship. What are some of the positive things that came out of the Nation of Islam? The most positive that came out of the Nation of Islam was its people, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Clarence, and the Five Percenters, and all the positive influence that they and their actions have inspired since then. How do you think Malcolm felt about some of the more paranormal aspects of the Nation of Islam, such as the mother wheel or Jacob's history? I believe Malcolm at the time had no reason to doubt Elijah, who had not only proven his truth so far, but also reformed and saved Malcolm from himself in a sense. I am familiar with Jacob's history, and it is out there. But in both Christianity and Islam, we believe Jacob or Jacob was the birth father of the white race. Would Master Fard and Elijah approve of today's Nation of Islam? I don't see why not. It is still full of spite, as I see in the Detroit Mosque, publicly slander their brothers, such as Brother Ben X, and they still pray to Master Fard. Is there still a need for the Nation of Islam today, and why? There is no good need for the Nation of Islam today. We need positive change, especially with the conflict in Palestine and Trump reversing the civil rights laws. The Nation of Islam has never been about positive change as much as they are about money. Can you tell me about some of the hypocrisy of this country? The first and biggest hypocrisy was declaring this the land of God when they created it into a hella on earth for Africans in the name of Jesus, a man. The second biggest hypocrisy was the event of 9/11, an event orchestrated by white imperialists And George Bush and Bill Clinton and Barack Obama have used this as an excuse to invade and exploit 9 Islamic majority countries. The CIA said, and I quote, Osama bin Laden has no connection to the September 11, 9/11 attacks. Do you subscribe to the concept of a chosen people? No, I do not subscribe to the concept of a chosen people, as it has been so detrimental in history as it is in Palestine today. But if there were a chosen people, it would be the original Israelites, as Jesus and Moses, black. Why has the oppression of darker-skinned people been perpetuated for so long? Well, the Christians believe it is the curse of Ham, Canaan humiliating his drunken, naked father Noah, and Canaan's son Ham, the father of the black race, and his descendants being cursed to be slaves. But in truth, I believe it's only because of ignorance propagated by white supremacy. Why do some Americans think that God is always on America's side? For the same reason that they believe they are chosen by God, because they believe God is white, and that those who are not are savages or a beast of burden. As an American, what gives you the most pride and the most shame? What gives me the most pride are those who step up to create a better world, even if that world is against them. People such as Malcolm X, Huey Newton, Kwame Ture, and today's Ibrahim Traore. What gives me the most shame would be the leaders in place who do nothing but incite hate and violence among the people and create war and destruction so that they can obtain wealth. With the money and donations sent to Israel, the statistics could have ended world hunger, homelessness, and poverty altogether. Why has there been such a void in leadership since the 60s? I believe there has been such a void in leadership since the Black Panthers, when they put into practice everything Malcolm preached. Without breaking law, they created food programs, schooling, and even free doctors that went to your door. Still, they were executed by firing squad. And since then, perhaps no one has known what to do, or been too afraid to do anything. But I believe Ibrahim Traore will turn things around and create a true Pan-Africa. Does religion have a role in repairing black communities? What is that role? I believe only Islam has a role in repairing, as it is the only way I have found to truly free one's mind, which can only be done by learning what you do not know and studying Islam and history. Would Malcolm X approve of Minister Farrakhan today? From what I can tell, Minister Farrakhan still teaches hate and greed, evident with Scientology, which Malcolm could not approve of. Is it time to move religion and religious talk from the landscape? These farces as Christianity and Catholicism have to be removed because it is evident they only worship Mithras, the sun god, born on December 25th in a cave from a virgin. It was adapted under the Christian name by Constantine at the Council of Nicaea. They even still worship on Sunday instead of the Saturday Sabbath. Should artists have a role in liberating the black community? I'm speaking about musicians, actors, painters, dancers, rappers. What can they do? Yes, of course they should have a role. As I said, it was Tupac who led me to Malcolm X, away from that bad lifestyle. And I believe rappers as Tupac are an integral connection to reach troubled youth, similar to Malcolm, and help them change. But they must have a positive influence and character themselves first. These performing artists may argue with you that is not where the money is. What do you say to that? Well, money is all fake and will not last you even in this lifetime. Experience and the respect and love of people is priceless. If you could start from scratch and had a choice of colors, which one would you choose, my brother? I would have to choose black because it comes with no mask. It's a truth, a beautiful, healthy, melanated, intelligent people. Of course, with the tribulations and adversity. But struggles in this life seem to follow me regardless. Is today's times different in the hood when you were growing up compared to today? What is dramatically different, and what city and state did you grow up in? Yes, today's times are, of course, different all over the West, I'd say. Every city has a Skid Row, as LA does, a downtown street full of addicts and homeless, all because of this fentanyl epidemic. I grew up in London, across the border, uh, straight across from Michigan, Flint, and on the other side between New York. Did you ever personally experience any racism against you? Can you tell me about it and how it affected you? Yeah, people will reject or judge me for my complexion, never judging my soul or mind. Mostly white people yelling derogatory terms at me for dressing Muslim in my kufi or kaftan. But I like to wear my colors on my wrist, as they say. And I know what I'm doing, I do for a purpose. How important is religion in our struggle for freedom, or is it at all? I believe only Islam is important in the struggle for freedom because it is the only way to free the mind. And today, this mental slavery is the worst kind. Everybody stands for nothing and falls for everything. What about Scientology? Can it help our people? From what I know, Scientology is pay the ranks, a complete fictitious scheme only for greed, so no. Are we where we're supposed to be at as a people? Please explain. I believe, despite the oppression and trials and tribulations, the community continues to strive and persevere to this day, evident with the rise in Burkina Faso with Ibrahim Traoré. How can we get there and how do we get there? I believe we must unite with Ibrahim Traoré with our funds and support, physical and moral. Have we failed our ancestors? You would have to ask them that for the answer, but I believe, of course, they couldn't say that we've failed them. It is a system against everyone that's failed. Ignorance is its foundation, and ignorance is also its weakness, and it will be its inevitable collapse. Do we need a separate state to reside, like in the way Elijah Muhammad advocated? Yes, I believe if we can unite with Burkina Faso and put our focus into unity, then we can create a Pan-Africa rich and beautiful. Do we need more black leaders? No, I believe we only need the right one, as Malcolm was. It only takes a grain of sand to move the world. What do you think Elijah Muhammad would say about the current version of the Nation of Islam bringing Scientology into its doctrine of the old days? I only believe Elijah would commend them on becoming so lucrative in their pursuit of wealth. Malcolm X, before he was slain, said that a rich Texan named H.L. Hunt was giving financial support to Elijah Muhammad and his Nation of Islam. What is your take on this? Yeah, I've seen multiple documentaries on H.L. Hunt. He is called the man who used his financial wealth from his oil to control and gain his own political power. It's evident he was funding the Nation of Islam. Stokely Carmichael or Kwame Ture released a 7-inch called America World Police exposing H.L. Hunt and the government as well. Clarence 13X, leader of the 5 Percenters, who was slain in 1968. Where does he fit in today's picture? I still see the positive influence and change that the 5 Percenters have made today, which can only inspire more to come from others, and that's all thanks to Clarence. Malcolm himself placed many restrictions on his own security to keep him alive. What should have been done to keep him alive? Well, I first thought he should have taken Bumpy Johnson's help and taken out a few Uncle Toms for the many. But the more I learned, it seems we can only create change by using weapons with further ranges and larger impacts than any artillery. As far back as I can remember, black people's orientation here has always been non-African ways, customs, and religion. Whose fault is it? They have only been directed towards Catholic, Islamic religions, and many others, not normal to our African ways. Even the list of names we have been given are only Islam or Arabic names, in addition to the names after our slave masters. What is wrong with this picture? Have we been conditioned or programmed to be anti-African? Yes, there of course is a conditioning and programming against blackness in Africa, from the Jewish media to the beauty expectation standards in this world. But my African brother in Islam says it is not an Arab religion, it is a religion for all, just with the message delivered and preserved in Arabic, a linguistic perfected language. Elijah Muhammad promised his followers someone flying a large spacecraft called the Mother Planar Wheel one day would get revenge on the international power structure for abusing the so-called American Negro. What is the chance of this happening one day? I don't believe there's any chance of this happening. I think it was meant to happen in 1970, but that is when, after then, the nation started to lose its following. Is there a heaven and hell where people are rewarded or punished for their actions and deeds on earth after physical death? Yeah, as a Muslim, I believe there are 7 layers of heaven and 7 layers of the pit, 7 being a very important number in religion.
Repeating, I told Omar, Malcolm got upset about something in the car. This is about 3 or 4 days before he was killed. And he said, I'm the 7th son of a 7th son. I spent 77 months in jail, which is 7 months less than 7 years, and then became minister of mosque number 7. And there's a lesson in all that. I said, what did he say? So I played it back in my mind. I said, the 7th son of a 7th son. I talk to people, I talk to authors, everybody tells me, Malcolm wasn't the 7th son, he was the 7th child. I said, I'm not a genealogist, man. I don't know nothing about his family. I'm just telling you what he told me. I know what I heard. I'm the 7th son of a 7th son. I spent 77 months in jail, which is 7 months less than 7 years, and then I became minister of mosque number 7, and there's a lesson in all that. And he hit the steering wheel when he said it. I said, what's happening here?
This ongoing rift between the Nation of Islam and Malcolm X. How can this opened wound be healed? We must first stop the hate, have patience to begin communication, and then once we have understanding, we can create love. And as Huey Newton said, in the new world we will not value wealth or material possession, but the value of love and respect for others. Do you believe that white men fired weapons at Malcolm X inside the ballroom? And where did this story emanate from? I believe this story came from Dick Gregory, who said white agents wouldn't allow black Muslims to have the honor of shooting Malcolm, so they gave them blanks. But I believe Dick Gregory should be in question for all his actions and comments of that day. If Malcolm had made his way into the United Nations, would he have been successful in presenting his case? Yeah, of course Malcolm would have been successful, as everyone whose lives he has touched, who have heard him, he has inspired change. Everyone knew what Malcolm said was an undeniable truth, with the evidence in itself. Was Malcolm, in your opinion, against white people, or was it white racism he was against? Please explain. Malcolm was against the system of racism and those who complied with it, which in most cases was whites. But without their interference, we can just be for ourselves without being against anything. If the government were to award reparations in the form of cash money, how should we use the money? The money should be used to transport people and materials to Africa and Burkina Faso and fund what great things Ibrahim Traore is doing. I believe he is picking up where Sankara left off, as well as continuing the revolution for freedom, and we cannot stand idle this time. Do you believe there was a conspiracy against Malcolm X, and what was it? Yes, I believe there was a textbook definition conspiracy against Malcolm by the government, complete with flashing lights, and half the audience said to be a backup gunman. Even the letters Malcolm sent to Elijah apologizing were all intercepted and replaced with new ones inciting hate and violence, said to be from Malcolm. How else would almost 50 states be on riot alert simultaneously? It was a complete conspiracy. Did you give Omar Shabazz Productions permission to film you? Yes, I gave Omar Shabazz and his production permission to film me, strictly for educational purposes, and of course to be a part of something with Malcolm X and Omar Shabazz, my favorite director. Are you a Muslim? Are you a white person who converted to Islam, and what was your previous religion? I am a Muslim. I am French and German background mostly. I was a so-called Christian but found truth in Islam. The colors of your head wrap have cuts of people asking what the colors represent. Can you explain? Yes, this flag they're referring to is Marcus Garvey's Pan-African flag for uniting Africans for Africa. The colors are red to represent the blood spilled in pursuit of freedom, then black represents the people themselves, and then green represents Africa, the land, rich in history and minerals. It's also the Black Liberation flag as mentioned in Gil Scott-Heron's song, the Black Liberation Song, or the Liberation Song. Does the color represent an Islamic country? No, though it has similar colors to the flags of Sudan and Palestine, it perhaps is due to each color's shared significance. Red is represented to use blood sometimes, or slavery. Have you ever been discriminated against before you converted to Islam, and what was the circumstance? Only once in my ignorance could I recognize that I was. It was when I went to help build a church for a community, maybe a decade ago. I had to share a room with other preachers and ministers, and the one found out that I was pregnant with my girlfriend at the time. He insinuated I was wrong for it, and said that there's still time for me to repent and God to forgive me, but I just ignored him. What about after you embraced Islam? Yes, after embracing it, I can see ignorance, arrogance, and discrimination daily from whites 99% of the time. Have you ever caught any flack from any white European? Yeah, they give me the most trouble, yelling at me on the street, slurs if I was wearing my kufi, kente cap, kaftan, trying to drag me down with them like crabs in a barrel. Have you ever been called sand Negro, Negro lover, or black Negro lover? Yes, all those things, by the so-called closest people in my life. My ex-fiance called me a Negro lover. My co-workers and past friends called me a sand Negro. But I don't associate with people like that these days. Why not take advantage of white skin privilege, put on a suit and tie, get a white-collar job, and leave this Muslim stuff in the wind? Because it would be wrong, false. Leaving Islam would be denying everything true I lived and died for. Denying Islam would be like denying Malcolm. And Malcolm always had an undeniable truth. Do you have a traditional Islamic Muslim name? No, I don't believe I've discovered mine yet. Perhaps if I earn it in some way, maybe on my Hajj I'll find one. In Islam, we believe nothing is created but discovered. Are you well received in Islamic circles? Yes, I am best received in the Islamic circles. They embraced me as soon as I stepped into the mosque, and they've done so even more since I performed my Shahada. Are there any white people you know who converted to the religion Islam? Yes, there's 2 or 3 at my mosque, one my age and the others in their 30s. They seem genuine, and in Islam we believe that's what counts most, is trying. I've seen a photograph of you standing with a Muslim official at the time you took your Shahada. Who is this individual you are standing with, and when was the photo taken? What was the occasion? Yes, this is the Imam of my mosque, Imam Muhammad al-Jamali. He is Libyan descent and has been an Imam for more than 15 years. This event and certificate is my Shahada, my declaration of my faith in Islam. Shabazz Productions thanks you for allowing this interview. Is there anything you want to speak about that you were not asked? Well, somebody I was friends with in my past became a convicted terrorist, the first European convicted as a terrorist in Canada. He was planning to attack my mosque, but instead ran over a Muslim family on his way to it. That convinced me more than almost anything that I was on the right path with Islam. Now with the conflicts in Palestine, the Middle East, and the rise of Africa with Burkina Faso in contrast to white imperialism spreading from Israel to the West, it is very evident Allah is separating the weak-willed from the strong, the bad from the good, the wrong from the right, most likely to distinguish us all before the Judgment Day, as predicted as the Nation of Islam did, and as George Lincoln Rockwell, an associate of theirs, did, saying, "There will be no World War III, only Armageddon against the rich imperialist white." When Alex Haley asked George Lincoln why, he said, "Superiority. They believe they are better even more than other whites." I believe we must all focus, think, and choose the right side before it is too late. As Malcolm said, be for truth and what is right. Have you seen the video uploads of comedian Dick Gregory saying that the CIA retained the Audubon Ballroom and it was the CIA who shot down Malcolm? What is your take on this? Yes, I've seen various clips and videos or speeches of him mentioning this. I believe everybody should be in question who was involved that day, from the ministers who didn't attend, the police all on duty, to Dick Gregory for his comments and announced absence that day. And from all my research, it was mostly the FBI, bossy, COINTELPRO involved with this. Very little bit about the CIA. Dick Gregory exonerated the members of the Nation of Islam in the shooting of Malcolm by saying that the CIA supplied the shooters in the Nation of Islam from Mosque number 25 in Newark, New Jersey, with blank shotgun shells for the sawn-off shotgun used and various blanks for the pistols used to fire in Malcolm's direction. Can you elaborate? Namely, 9mm and 45mm blanks loaded in the automatic pistol used in the assault. Please tell me your thoughts on Dick Gregory's claim. I believe his claims are completely unfounded, perhaps even to clear Dick Gregory himself of some sort of suspicion, or perhaps free him from any suspicion of the police. Most of our knowledge about hired assassins and hitmen or women are hired to put contracts on their targets. These contractors, from our limited understanding, are paid handsomely to do their assignment. Do you think these hit people can agree to do a contract, get paid, and then not carry out the job? And live to tell about it? What do you think? Well, obviously, most of these cases are carried out by police on low scale and government infiltrators on large scale. From Malcolm X to Huey Newton, and since before Patrice Lumumba, now today's attempts on Ibrahim Traore, all carried out and planned by Zionist Masonic white imperialists. Dick Gregory said he saw Malcolm's autopsy, and it shows that all bullets and slugs entered Malcolm's body from a downward trajectory. What do you say to this? I have not seen anything but photos of Malcolm's upper body and images of the police report and autopsy with bullets appearing to enter his chest and torso, leaving straight through his back. Comedian Dick Gregory stated that it was as if he had full knowledge and stated as if it was factual that the assassins who fired their weapons at Malcolm used ineffective blanks at Malcolm that couldn't harm Malcolm. What is your take on this? Please talk to me. It seems you are asking almost my opinion on Dick Gregory himself. I know he ran for president, though was not as militant as Malcolm was. He is also pictured in Malcolm's autobiography, original print by Alex Haley, though he seems to have received too much knowledge that he is almost lost in it all. I know no ordinary person today would understand anything he's talking about. Dick Gregory also said that it was members of the CIA who cut a hole in the ballroom's rooftop, pointed their weapons at Malcolm that contained real live ammo, and the CIA were the real killers. Please tell me what you think about Dick Gregory's claim. Many of Dick Gregory's claims seem so outlandish that he may just want us to ignore them to exalt him from the whole situation. I may have asked you this before, but I want to ask you again. Malcolm taking black people's case into the United Nations, how do you think that would have played out? Malcolm would of course have his case approved. Everyone who heard him speak knew it was a truth, undeniably, with the evidence in itself. But today's times have changed. The UN is different, full of internal rape cases against refugees, their lack of action with the conflicts in Palestine, the famines in Yemen and Sudan, and many other blind eyes and backs turned from them. Can you name any everyday products that come from Africa? We walk into stores and businesses, but I can't even remember seeing a product that comes from Africa. Africa is said to be a very rich continent. Where are the products that people need on a daily basis? Eating utensils, television sets, toilet paper, cell phones, toothpicks, clothing, cars, and computers. Where are the products that generate wealth? Why do you think these things I named and much more don't exist? Well, this is all just another form of white imperialism, hoarding the money and taking it all from others, capitalism. One thing in everyone's homes is chocolate that's from Africa. All cocoa comes from the West Gambia that's relegated to use child slaves paid cents a day to get their cocoa. Similar to Tesla and Apple getting all cobalt for their rechargeable batteries from child slaves in mines in the Democratic Republic of Congo. If you ruled the world, how would you change things? Well, we may first have to separate the nations by religion, of course, able to trade and share cultures, but we must be able to be satisfied and agree with our own land and space for our own values, cultures, and traditions. Of course, reparations also must be paid to all Africans and descendants for what they exploited, stole, enslaved, and worse. And that includes all, to not exclude those who moved north after or during, even be it by underground railroad to Canada for escape. You think black people can have a black state or a nation in America? I don't believe that they can have a peaceful black state within America while America refuses to not corrupt, infiltrate, or destroy everything not aligned with their American culture or beliefs. We often hear people thanking God for various reasons, like when they win a sports event, or win prizes on game shows, survive life-threatening catastrophes. Are these expressions acknowledged by God, or do they fall on deaf ears? Well, I believe God only accepts our prayers as recitations of the Quran or dua, asking for forgiveness, mercy, strength, and or reward. We must not look at God as our provider or anything but the God, the greatest, exalted, and bound by no family, no needs or desires. The one thing greater than all that we must bow down to humble, and to be better ourselves. Exactly what should mankind be thankful for? Peace, breath, safety. It's a rare and great feeling, being safe, being able to slow down and breathe, as time seems to always be running out. If God has a chosen people that he favors over others, would that make others stepchildren? God does not value or judge, but by piety or righteousness. And those were Muhammad the Prophet's, peace be upon him, his last words. If God had a chosen people that he favors over others, would that make others stepchildren? God does not value or judge, but by piety or righteousness. And that was the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's final preaching, final message. I'm sure you have heard the expression, treated like a stepchild, which implies that they are not riding first class. What do you say to that? I can't accept it. I myself have a broken family, and it's too difficult on the children enough. We must bring back love and value it in this world. Elijah Muhammad taught his followers that white people were devils. All of his ministers, including Malcolm, when he was in the Nation of Islam, promoted the same thing. What are your thoughts on this? When I first learned about Malcolm, I believed him. It explained so much in my life, not only why I could never fit into society, but also where my self-hatred and violence originated from within my blood and flesh. But if they were the devil, that would mean they are more than human. Subhuman maybe by genetics, yes, but if anything, they originated from caves, as Dr. Africa writes. And as they believe in also Neanderthals, which is why so many of them consume, take, and destroy instead of thinking to build and create. Elijah Muhammad taught that a spaceship will one day appear to destroy America. What are your thoughts on this? I have to believe this is more lies taught to him by Wallace D. Fard. If you were in charge of Malcolm's security, what would you have done to prevent his assassination? Bumpy Johnson is the only man who would have made it past the police and would have the job done, plus the message and protection on Malcolm, from then on just by representation. If you were in charge of Malcolm's security, what would have been done to prevent his assassination? Bumpy Johnson is the only man who would have made it past the police and have the job done, plus message and protection on him, on Malcolm, from then on, just from his reputation. But the best way is with a message, one with a further range and larger impact than any artillery. I just have not yet found that message. Perhaps if there was a way to convince people of the oneness of God and the oneness of man. Who do you think was in front of and behind Malcolm X's assassination? H.L. Hunt is mentioned financially, though it's evident it was the government who orchestrated it, using the nation as pawns and a patsy for the job. Because I know if those brothers knew it was the police helping the members behind Malcolm's death, then they would have truly needed those almost 50 states on riot alert, as they coincidentally were at the time of Malcolm's death. Most people speak of their belief in God, but we seldom hear any speak of their belief in the devil. What do you think? I faced the devil in many forms, from drugs and addiction to opportunistic moments of choice. Even what people call sleep paralysis, I experienced and witnessed what I believe was Shaitan. He, of course, is a fallen angel, meaning the opposite, a demon or devil. And it's written that he only deceives to drag others down with him, yet he still loves Allah. Do you think that God or the devil may be in human form? I believe the devil in human form may have deceived the prophets, similar to as he did Adam as a serpent. Though those are tests for the greatest of ourselves, the prophets. Of course, God is bound by nothing. He may never be human, as he is exalted above all such characteristics. Though weak souls, drunks, addicts, godless, seem to be almost like empty vessels, just following sin's temptations, or their own will, perhaps even maybe the devil's will. Brother Tyler, how do people of color react to you when they see you wearing a shirt with the image of Malcolm X on it? I've only worn it several times, mostly for filming. No reactions, though, from it. But when I wear my Pan-African neck gaiter, I will get some power fists and nods. I also don't like to wear stuff with people's faces on it, especially since seeing the incident with Belova trying to pay Malcolm's photographer to get a picture of Malcolm's face on one of their watches, and him rejecting it, saying Malcolm didn't stand for that kind of thing. What if you found out it was definitely proven that there is no God, no devil, no reward or punishment after physical death. How should you or anyone react upon hearing such factual knowledge? What if you found out it was definitely proven that there is no God, no devil, no reward or punishment after physical death? How should you or anyone react upon hearing such factual knowledge? If it were factual knowledge, how could I sin or be immoral even after the knowledge of it? How would my children think of me or react if I gave up so? They are the future, whether God is real or not, and we must not corrupt the future. We all hear the expression, keep the faith. What is the faith? I believe the faith in the expression is keeping God in our minds and hearts so we do not stray from our paths or commit atrocities. What about the expression, keep your eyes on the prize? What is the prize? The prize, whatever it is eternal and everlasting, which I believe is life with Allah. As it's written, we shall inherit the earth. Have you been to Ferncliff? Have you been to Ferncliff Cemetery, where Malcolm X is buried? What is the atmosphere like? When you visited, has it always been a joyous occasion? No, I've never been, but I've researched it and viewed multiple commemorative meetings and occasions and speeches there. I'd love to pay my due and respect.